This is an update from Thursday, January 29th, 2026. We had a big win this week. On Tuesday, we were in front of Judge Karapatit in the 3rd District Court. We were arguing, it was Michael Clara's case. There was evidence that there was a criminal investigation into Spencer Cox's signature packets. We had asked about that the entire time before the primary. We were looking into it. This information was denied and the investigation was covered up until a whistleblower gave Michael the document that he was looking for. It had been denied to him through grammar requests from the Attorney General's office. The State Records Committee never scheduled a hearing, and the Attorney General's office misrepresented it to the court that the documents didn't exist, and it was thrown out in court. So we were again in front of the judge this week, and she reopened the case because now we have this document that proves there wasn't an investigation. So because of this, we've had a lot of questions. I think people are wondering, why are you guys still in this? You ran in 2024, now it is 2026. What is motivating you? And I'll tell you, the things that are motivating me and Phil Lyman today are the same things that motivated us to run 2 years ago. The same issues are there, and they're present now more than they were at that point. And the big question here is election integrity and what is going on in our state. We have got to clean this up. So we are motivated by the 200,000 plus people who wrote us in. It was record-breaking numbers, and by everyone else throughout the state of Utah that deserves to have clean elections, regardless of which political party you belong to. We should be able to trust our elections. So yeah, our motivation today is the same as what we started our campaign with. We both, Phil Lyman and I, both share a great concern for election integrity. So you may not know this, but in 2021, Phil ran a bill called HB 371, which would have cleaned up our elections. It was a huge bill, would have taken us back to in-day vote in person and bring ID and all those things that we can decentralize the process. So he took that to the House. It was killed in the committee from Deidre Henderson and other people, didn't even let it go forward. At the same time, I was running an initiative, a statewide initiative called Secure Vote Utah with Lowell Nelson and a number of other great people in our state, and doing similar things where we wanted people to vote in person and come and show ID. And that also was killed by Deidre, who was trying to, both in the public and privately to the clerk, she was trying to stop our efforts. So here we are today, having gone through this election. Now we actually have standing now as injured candidates, and we have a special knowledge of this corruption, both because of what we have done in the past and because of our experience going through this. We have the special knowledge, and we have receipts of what happened and how Utah handles their elections. And we need to continue to expose that, and that is what is motivating us today. So with the help of Michael Clara, I hope you guys have been watching his videos. He's had incredible videos on YouTube, 16 of them now, that show this cover up, this investigation, and the lack of signatures for Spencer Cox and everything. But with his help, we have a pretty good grasp right now of the election fraud that went in onto the signatures. It's clear that Spencer Cox was short. He didn't have enough signatures to qualify him for the ballot, yet Davis County Clerk decided that he did. And a lot of people knew it at the time. The Lieutenant Governor's office knew he was short. Davis County Clerk knew he was short. The state auditor, all of these people knew he was short before we went to the general election, and they could have done something about it, but didn't. In fact, the entire legislature knew that he was short. They ran an audit. It was their own legislative audit. It was released October 15th, 2 weeks before the general election. And they said they did a statistical analysis and found that he was most likely short on signatures, and he didn't have an extra signatures that he had gathered and turned in to make up for that difference. So the difference with Spencer Cox as opposed to another candidate is he and his running mate oversees the entire election process. And so if the process was sloppy and allowed for this to happen, then where does the buck stop? It stops at the top. It stops to the person who organized and who oversaw this whole effort. So it is a problem, and they do have a different standard that they should not have allowed so many fraudulent signatures to be verified on his part. So So that audit, and then now we also have a third audit that came in at a cost of $344,000 to the state. That was never revealed during 2024 when it was conducted, and it wasn't until 2025 when we had a new state auditor. Tina Cannon was asked to testify about it to the Gov Ops Committee, where she talked about the number of signatures that were short, and talked about how there were full packets that were collected for one candidate were giving credit to another candidate. So tons of problems within the signatures. So it's clear now, looking back, that Spencer Cox was short on signatures. He should not have been on the ballot. Huge problem. So the question is, what should happen now? Why are we still in this? What do we hope to get from it? Okay, two parts. Number one, the election itself needs more scrutiny. We've had a lot of scrutiny on the signature packets, although we still have never seen them. We actually are going back to State Records Committee on February 19th, so we'd love to have your support there. Started the process over again to view Spencer Cox's signature packets in light of all of these things that we know now. We want to be able to view them. So that's happening for February 19th, but there has not been this level of scrutiny on the election itself. And there's huge problems there. And that is what the legislators and others should be looking closer at. So our race is actually a perfect example to see how these government actors interfered, because clearly they did throughout the entire time that we ran for office. We had another Lyman who somehow was paid a state dinner and $1,000 to join and become a write-in candidate to take away votes from us. And a mysterious sight hole was placed on the ballot over our names, so you could see our names from outside of the envelope. I mean, there's tons of things like that we saw as we were running for office. But with the election itself, there appears to be a drop of about 40,000 ballots that happened right at the beginning for Spencer Cox. And if those were legitimate ballots and he really had that much of a lead over us, that lead should have continued to increase during the race. And you would expect him to finish a lot higher than he did. But it turns out that he only won with about 35,000 votes, which is just a very narrow margin, and especially with that massive drop at the beginning. So when you ask Grok, which is X's version of ChatGPT, what's the likelihood of our race happening organically without some outside interference, it's less than 1 in a billion chance that this could have just happened by itself. So tons of concerns with the election. That's where we need eyes. We need to be able to look closer. We did our due diligence. We did grandma requests to Deidre immediately after the election, and she responded with a letter that went to all county clerks, and it said, "Do not release any election returns." She said you can't. She wrote to us that you can't get this through grandma, and you can't get this through the court. So no one has seen it. Even people who are tasked with certifying elections can't look closer to see these cast vote records and to see a closer view at them. So that is a huge problem. So that's number one ask, is we need to have people who are going to look closer at the election, look at these unexplainable votes. We need to understand how these things are happening, because if we don't understand it, how can we ever fix it going forward? And we need to know what's going on with our elections. There's absolutely 100% zero transparency on Utah's elections at every level. So the legislators need to open the door to look at these election returns. It will give them information and knowledge going forward to understand how this manipulation, if it's happening, how it is occurring. And then number two, our second ask, is that there needs to be some accountability. If we continue to allow these same bad actors who manipulated the signature votes and probably manipulated the election itself, if we allow them to stay in office and to continue to stay in their same positions, then nothing will ever change. Every appointed LG will become the new governor, and so on and so on. And every statewide race, all these races, will go to, will be controlled. We'll continue to have these selections in Utah instead of elections, and where these votes are being controlled. So this is a big deal. So to recap, Phil and I have been involved in this election space for a long time. We have concerns about how it's been run in the past. Running our own election has only increased our concerns with how Utah runs its elections. We have personal examples, personal knowledge, and a lot of receipts to prove that. We need people who are in positions of power, elected offices, to look closer at these records. This is a perfect case to look closer at it. We know that there's been some manipulation. And this is a situation we cannot vote ourselves out of, unfortunately. So we need the public support to have clean elections, and we need support from our people in office to look closer and to do the right thing so that we can again trust our elections in Utah.